The other day I went out to eat with a buddy of mine, and he ordered a salad, which was really weird because he never orders salad. It's always fried food, dipping sauce. I mean, it's the unhealthiest stuff on the menu. So of course I called him on it, and I said, "What are you doing? This is not normal behavior for you." And he said to me, I'm getting older. I need to focus in on my diet a little bit better, so I've cut out fatty foods. I cut out carbs. I've cut out sugar. I've cut out joy. These kind of diets, the kind of diets that just, you cut out everything. Maybe you've been on one of those kind of diets. And he said something that was really interesting. He said, I feel so much better now. And that's to be expected. I think anybody who's ever gone on a health kick understands that. But he said something really insightful. He said, I didn't even know I felt bad before. Sometimes we feel bad for so long that bad just kind of becomes normal. It's like that day in, day out kind of life. It's the waking up in the morning, the going to work and coming home from work and then going back to work and coming back home from work over and over and over again. And some people call that the American dream. Getting a job that you love and going to it and making money, but it can also be called the rat race or the grind. And we start to feel it. We start to feel the pressure of that, where we're working so hard to provide for the needs of our family, but also the wants of our family. We're trying to give our kids food and clothing and also get them into sports and also get them all the toys and video games that they want. But we also want to manage their screen time so they're not on screen time all the time. And, we want to sit down and maybe have a meal together a few times a week where we're not sitting there talking about video games the whole time. Is that too much to ask? And then beyond that, we have debt. We have the AC unit that went out in the middle of summer. Why does it always go out in the middle of summer? And we know that we're just really one missed paycheck away from really being in trouble. We start to feel these things. We feel them in our stomach, and we would never tell our friends and family the way we feel. And our blood pressure goes up, and the amount of sleep that we get goes down, and we start saying things like, this is normal. This is life, but it's not normal, and it's not living, and it's definitely not good. Sometimes things can be wrong for so long that we forget they're just not supposed to be this way. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like there should be more than this? Or maybe you've just felt like you're just not having any fun anymore. There was this man in the Bible, and he had all of his stuff together. He managed his busy calendar, and he knocked out his to-do list. He downloaded all of those productivity apps on his phone, and he actually stuck with them, and remembered to put in his calories into MyFitnessPal instead of just having the app sitting there on his phone. He had everything together. He was a success. But then one day, he said, so I hated life. He looked over everything he had been working towards, and he looked over all of his discipline and work ethic, and he just realized that it was meaningless. And he got depressed, and he says he couldn't sleep at night, and he was in physical pain because of just how much he hated what he had become. Everything was falling apart for this guy because of the grind, because of the rat race. It just wasn't working out, and he wasn't having any fun anymore. He knew something was missing. I think it's human nature for us to work really hard trying to acquire something that was never meant to be had by hard work. what is it that we're working so hard to acquire? Is it a better future for us and our families? Yeah, probably a little bit of that. Is it that we want some feeling of financial security? Oh, I mean, almost certainly. Maybe it's a sense of purpose and of meaning that we want to find through our work, and hopefully we get a little bit of that. So we work really hard, right? Like we throw ourselves into whatever we're doing, whether it's our jobs or extracurricular activities. We throw ourselves into it trying to find that thing that isn't supposed to come from work. But don't get me wrong, work is a good thing. It was something that was built into the very beginning. If you go back to the very first part of the Bible, what do we see? We see work. In the beginning, God created. And it even says, it was good. Day 1, God created, and he finishes and says, it was good. Day 2, he created, and it was good. 3, 4, 5, 6, God creates, and everything was good. And then on day 7, he rested. And isn't that kind of weird that God rested? I just find that kind of weird. I mean, why would God need rest? He doesn't need rest. It's not like God needs to kick off his shoes and sit down and watch Netflix and recharge his batteries. God doesn't need that. Clearly, this is an example for you and me. Clearly, he rested to set a pattern and to demonstrate something for us to follow. And I think what he was doing there was establishing a reminder that you and me, that we're not machines. That work, although it's a good thing, we weren't made for work. That our value and our purpose isn't found in what we output. It's not what we can put out into the world and what we can manufacture. That's not where we find a sense of purpose and meaning in this world. This is what the author of Ecclesiastes was saying when he said, so I hated life. He was working so hard and nothing seemed to have meaning for him anymore. Because we were made for more than work. We were made to cease and to pause and to enjoy. Doesn't that sound good? To actually have that built into what it means to be human, to have moments to enjoy. I think this is probably what Jesus meant when he said that man was not made for the Sabbath, but that Sabbath, that rest, that the pause, the ceasing, that was made for man. That we had this thing that was a gift of God to us, that we were given this gift of a break of rest, and in this gift there is the provision of meaning for the meaningless. I think that's just really important. I think that's just really significant. But you know the most important thing about rest is that it was a made thing. That rest was a created thing. So you know what we do? We think of God creating and then God ceasing from creating. Like day 1, he creates. Day 2, he creates. 3, 4, 5, and 6, he creates. And he calls all those things good. And then on day 7, he stops creating. But this isn't exactly what is going on here. You see, what we saw was that Jesus said Sabbath was made for man. Made. A created thing. Something that was made for man. You see, the difference between days 1 through 6 and day 7 is not that day 7 wasn't a created thing. It's that it wasn't called a good thing, because it was so much better than good. On day 1, God creates and he says, it was good. Day 2, God creates and it was good. 3, 4, 5, and 6, it was good. On day 7, God rests and it's called holy. But what we see here is that rest wasn't something that was the absence of work, the absence of output, of effort. It was a created, made thing for us. Work is good. Work is very good, but it's not holy. If we aren't careful, what we find ourselves doing is we throw ourselves so much into the good things of God, the days 1 through 6, that we start to miss out on the holy things of God, right? Like we focus in on our jobs and our activities and our efforts, things that we make, things that we throw our effort into, but we don't make room for pause. We don't make room for ceasing from those things. And the fact of the matter is that rest is work. It takes work to rest properly. It takes work to actually cease from the busyness of our mind, to stop and to focus on the things that matter, because that's what rest is. God's rest is more than the absence of work. God's rest is the attention on the holy things of God. And that takes effort on our part. But when we lose touch of the holy things of God, not only are we losing those holy things, but it actually robs us of the good things. Suddenly the good things stop feeling so good. That's precisely the moment when the author of Ecclesiastes starts looking around everything that he had and he says, my busy calendar isn't enough. My to-do list isn't enough. The effort that I've put forth isn't giving me value or meaning, and the financial security. I feel no peace with this. And 39 times in that small book he says, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. It's because when we focus on the good things of God and don't make space for the holy things of God, well, then the good things don't give us any meaning. We stop finding the meaning in the life that God gave for us. But when we do make space for the holy things of God, well, that's precisely the moment when the good things find meaning and we start to enjoy them the proper way, and we start to enjoy them the way that God intended for us. They're no longer a grind and a burden and, gosh, we're just not having any fun anymore. But suddenly we look at the life that we've been given and we can love it again. Nothing is better for a man than he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy the good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. The author of Ecclesiastes, the same man who said, meaningless, meaningless, and the same man who said, so I hated my life, just a few verses later is finding meaning and purpose. He recognizes that it is a gift of God. So for us, we want the same thing. We want meaning. We want purpose. And for us, it's found by turning our attention to the holy things of God and turning our attention away from wasting it just on the good things of God.